Now, looking ahead, what major shifts or changes would you like to see in this business of ours, especially concerning financing, production?
Well, I'd certainly like the banks to get involved and trust the industry, but they're not going to do that until we know or we can prove in a way that they will have a return on their investment, ideally. But I know over the years we've tried, we've met with the banks, but I don't see it an open door just yet.
Hello everyone and welcome to another exciting episode of the Film Biz Show, the only show where we delve into industry professional minds to get their insight on the current landscape of the film and television industry, both locally and internationally. Please subscribe, like, comment, and turn on the notification button so you are aware of our future episodes that you will love so much. And now today we are delving into the world of film and finance, and our guest today is a distinguished individual who has an amazing educational background that landed her an MBA from Oxford Brookes. In 1987, she entered the film and television industry at Motion Pictures Accounting Services. She then established herself as a freelance production accountant, contributing expertise to a spectrum of local and international feature films, television series, and commercials across South Africa, Namibia, and Europe. In 1998, she joined Endemol SA, where she ascended from project controller to the esteemed position of finance director, overseeing operations for Endemol SA, Nigeria, and East Africa. Following a remarkable 15-year tenure at Endemol, she transitioned to Film Finances SA in 2013, a globally renowned leader in completion bonds. Currently, she serves as the managing director, bringing her wealth of experience and strategic awareness to further enhance the company's standing in the industry. She has worked on projects from The Giver, Backstage, Isidingo, Madiba, Chappie, Shaft 6, and so much more. Everyone, please help me welcome the gracious Miss Jane Fry. Welcome.
Thank you, Marcus. Nice to be here.
Yeah, no, it really is a pleasure to have you here. You know, first thing that comes into mind as I was on the way to the studio was the story of Pandora's box, right? It's a whole Greek mythology. And soon as she opened this box, there was a whole lot of interesting spells and curses that came out of that box. But I mean, in our instance, it's this business that we're in, right? Once you step in, you realize there's so much more to discover. And I think today we'll be learning a whole lot. You know. Now, I've got a father who's an accountant.
All right.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. And, you know, when I sit down with him every year when I'm doing my taxes, I kind of like explain, no, this is what we get. And it just doesn't make sense to him. It's like, no, you're wrong. You're doing something wrong. This doesn't make sense. How come you guys are working on things this way? And I later learned that there's a huge difference between a normal accountant and a production accountant.
Absolutely.
What's the difference, Jane?
First of all, production accountants, it's not high finance. But the art of being a good one is being able to get through volume accurately and quickly, and just being on top of every single thing that has an effect on finance in the film. An accountant is more on the higher side of finance. They're wanting to look at debentures and shares and things like that, which we don't get involved in as a production accountant. And it's longer hours. I wouldn't say harder work, it's a different type of work. You're also dealing with creatives all the time.
Which must be a lot.
Yeah, exactly. And you're often the one that is having to say no. Not that, CAs and normal accounting in the commercial world don't say no, they also say no. But it's quite different. I've often tried to place a normal accountant, when I say normal accountant, a CA, put it that way, a CA as opposed to maybe a bookkeeper, qualified accountant on the wouldn't say the lower side, that's probably not the right word, but not a CA who's normally dealing on a much higher level, to put them on a production, it's frustrating for them, I've found,
Wow.
over the years.
In what way?
Yeah.
How come, like, where does the actual frustration
It can be boring.
come? Okay.
It can be boring, and it's not high finance. It's general bookkeeping, really, is what we do, as production accountants. Yeah.
Okay.
But the art, I believe, is getting through the volume accurately and understanding what causes a financial implication.
Yeah.
Even a call sheet that you get. A call sheet will tell you these people are supposed to be arriving on set on this day at this time, and your daily so you know already that it's going to cost you, and these amount of crew, and then your daily progress report will tell you, did it actually happen? So those are your it's every piece of paper in the film in production has a financial implication. So you've got to look at it like that. But a CA is normally on a much higher level on accounting levels. Yeah.
Okay, makes a lot of sense. I actually thought film bonding was film insurance.
It's assurance.
Film assurance.
Yeah.
Please enlighten me, Jane. What is the difference?
Well, we're offering a guarantee that your film will be delivered on time and within budget. It's a performance guarantee. So it's like manufacturing a building. You're hiring these people, construction people, to make sure that building is made to a certain level, on time and within budget. It's the same thing. It's a performance guarantee. It's not insurance. Production insurance is something else.
How does that work?
Well, production, if you've got loss, they have to pay out.
Okay, makes a lot of sense.
To cover you for loss. It's like your vehicle. If you damage your vehicle and you've got loss, there it has to be fixed.
Okay, but just tell me a little bit about how it all started from you. Where do you come from? And you've got an illustrious, a career where you've traveled extensively throughout the world. You are literally, a person. We call this a person of the world. Your thinking and your outlook is one that is influenced by a lot of global, changes and things that have happened outside of our borders. But, please just let us know, where does this all start? Where did it all start for Jane Fry?
So I had gone overseas for a 3-week holiday, and I landed up staying for 3.5 years. And during that time, I traveled extensively throughout Europe and the UK, Ireland. And I came back to South Africa. I'd worked for the South African Embassy while I was there, in the tax department, and which was a lot of fun. But when I came back to South Africa, I couldn't settle. I was very restless. But I landed up going back to the company that I'd worked for before I had gone overseas. But I just wasn't settling. And so I was looking in the paper and the classifieds, and I found this advertisement, do accounting while you travel. And it just was music to my ears. And it was for a firm of accountants, Levitt and Bonner. So I went for an interview, got the job, was very lucky, and my life changed. Completely changed. Got into the film industry, working for Motion Pictures Accounting Services. And we did that for about a year, or just over a year. And all the accountants that were working on the various films, when Levitt and Bonner closed that division of theirs, we all went freelancing. And so I did that for just over about 11 years and had the time of my life. And then I needed to study. I wanted to study. I'd done various diplomas in accounting and business, and I had been invited to do my MBA, and I put it off, and I thought, I can't. I don't have the time. I was working long hours. And then I was invited again, and I said, I've got to do it. I mean, invitations like this don't come around very easily. And so I changed from being a freelance accountant to working a 9-to-5 kind of job, except it's never 9-to-5. But that's when I joined Endemol. And it was the time when Izzy Dingo had just started.
And
so that was their flagship production. And I could then study.
Okay.
And I had the time to study, and that's when I completed my MBA and used Endemol as part of my thesis. Production accounting is my thesis, actually.
Amazing. That's amazing. Sure. Yeah, no, I mean, with your generation of production accountants, I'm sure there's a different culture in terms of knowing the nuts and bolts of what happens in the actual whole, in the machinery. You know, how did you actually get to be so involved, you know, with the technical side of things and knowing?
Well, yes, when I joined Motion Pictures Accounting Services, Mike Schneider, who was our boss at the time, he was very enthusiastic about accounting on films, and and the knowledge that we needed to gain from where our background had come from, all of us. And he made us go into these equipment houses and go and look at the equipment, learn the equipment, read books on cameras about lenses and apertures and all of those things. So when we see it on paper, we know what they're talking about. You know, all their lighting equipment, blondes and redheads are not really blondes and redheads. Yeah, exactly. And polecats.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, that's.
And the Pee-wee dolly. I mean, that's another one.
The Pee-wee dolly. Who comes up with these names?
So yeah, we had to learn all that, and it made our life a lot easier when we see it on paper.
Yeah. I mean, now you do workshops to enlighten accountants into moving into the film accounting space. Could you tell us more about your workshops and?
Well, over the years, I've realized that I always used to get phone calls. Do you know of an accountant, that can work on this or that? And the list is short, and it's always been short. And over the years, it's just really not got much better. So a friend of mine and we decided to hold some workshops. So I had recruited 50 qualified accountants, not CAs. They were bookkeepers, just educating them on what the industry was about, and that there's a full-on career there. It spans years from being an accounting clerk to a full-on production controller, financial controller, and of course the size of the film also differs. You start on small productions and you can get bigger and bigger, big budget movies. And so 50 people pitched. We went through the whole workshop as to what the whole, the industry entails. Working long hours, you might have to travel. And this is the type of work that we do. And then I had a follow-up workshop, and only 15 pitched out of the 50 because they either didn't want to drop in salary. I mean, I say that because even though I came into the industry qualified, nobody was interested in that. I needed to start at the bottom, as an assistant accountant. Anyway, so 15 pitched. Also husbands don't like their wives traveling. The long hours, nobody was keen. Public holidays, if you have to work, it doesn't suit everybody. So out of the 15, the workshop after that, we managed to place 3 into the industry. One is still going. One chappie is still going strong. The other one, I think, landed up working for the SABC. And the other lady, she was placed on a production, and she lasted one day. And she said, this is not for me.
Wow.
Can't do this.
Interesting.
So 2 out of 50. But it's something.
It is. And well done for going for it.
But, folk are still continuing with workshops.
Yeah.
I know there's a chap called Sydney who's holding workshops, and Moneypenny is holding workshops.
it's a brilliant initiative. I think it's really great, and it's exactly what we need in this country, given the high unemployment rate. I know one accounting graduate from UJ actually gave me a call, and she was saying that she was looking for mentors. So I want to know, have you considered maybe tapping into the unemployed graduates
I'd be happy
see?
to.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Okay.
I must tell you a little story. There was an accountant who joined Motion Pictures Accounting Services. And when she got there, she realized, she thought it was a glamour job.
Wow.
But it really, people need to know that it's a desk job. It's not going out onto set
That's it.
and watching actors act and, doing all those, what they think is glamorous. It's a desk job.
Yeah. So
Anyway.
maybe I'll have a chat with my partner and we can see how we can collaborate and getting those workshops out there to the people.
Sure.
Yeah, because we really have been looking at doing more impactful work on the ground with students and institutions. So, yeah. Okay. Now, I mean, with bodies such as, the Department of Arts and Culture, the IDC, the NFVF, provincial film commissions, and so on, why does it seem like there isn't enough funding for our industry to compete globally? Why does it seem...
Well, I think there is enough funding. Remember that the government really put in a percentage of what your budget is.
Yeah.
So if your budget's approved, whether it's 25, 35, 40%, that's standard, whether your budget is 5 million or 50 million.
Yeah.
So I think the money's there, but you talk about globally.
I mean, just to say, like, are our films globally competitive?
Well, that is about the script and who the film is aimed to, and who's going to be distributing it. They need to do the numbers. It's that's what's going to make it globally competitive.
Yeah.
Is to have something that's relevant, that appeals to other audiences. It's got nothing to do with government funding.
Government funding. I mean, when you in hindsight, when you look at the projects in which you've worked on, the ones that were more successful, was it because of the amount of money that was put into the project, or was it something else?
Probably marketing.
Marketing.
Yeah, your marketing. If you've got money for marketing, you can, that's obviously, push ahead.
Now the theater, I mean, cinema is not such a attractive stream of income for independent producers. I think what it's done, it's made us less aggressive in that regard, because what we look for is just, you want to get this movie licensed and done, so, and once the agreement is done, it's almost like you're finished with it. It's the streamer's choice what they do with it.
Well, yeah, if it's a license agreement, you still own the IP. But if it's commissioned, then they do.
I mean, even if you do, I mean, whether 15 million people watch this film or 200,000 people, it doesn't change anything for you as the producer, does it?
Well, it would. I think I think I mentioned some time back, you've got to work backwards. You've got to see who you are aiming your film to. Who's your target?
Yeah.
Work out who's going to look at it, who's looking for this kind of, where you think you can distribute it, what the numbers are. I mean, the sales agents, distributors need to give you numbers. And then you work back. Is it going to be just a local movie? Am I going to be just here in South Africa trying to earn my money back? Or does it have legs? You've got to find, your distributors and sales agents can do those figures for you, and then you work out what your budget should be.
Yeah.
And if your script is too lavish for that, then you cut down.
But there are other countries where private banks are literally involved in
most countries, certainly LA, the big, the main countries, Canada, Australia, the banks are lenders.
Yeah.
Our banks don't. They don't know the industry. They don't trust the industry. You know, a lot of the time, films have not made their money back.
Yeah.
I mean, that's also how film finances came into being. In the UK, when banks would lend their money against projects, and the projects never saw the screen. And so they would lose a lot of money. And that's when two producers decided to guarantee delivery of that film.
Okay.
And that's how Film Finances
Okay.
was born in 1950.
My goodness.
And so if the banks are guaranteed that there's a film that can be sold, then they'll make their money back.
Okay.
At least. Hopefully.
Hopefully.
Hopefully. But they'll have a film.
Yeah.
And it's, you see, also that's where our obligation ends. Once delivery is made of the film, then it's up to the distributors and sales agents to make good.
But I mean, at least the government has tried to, you know, set up a lending, you know, product for filmmakers.
When I started in the business, there was no government assistance at all. A lot of tax dodgers, but no government assistance.
Yeah, I mean, there's now, what, 2% on the National Empowerment Fund loan?
Yeah, I mean, you're lucky if you get that, yes.
Yeah.
Not everybody will get that.
Yeah. Why is it so hard to attain? Because we've been at these events and they say...
I think their criteria, you know, you need to look into their criteria. But I mean, money is expensive. You borrow money, it's expensive.
So true. That's so true. Money is expensive. I love that. But no, you touched on film finances. I had no idea that you guys actually, you know, were born in the 50s.
1950.
My goodness.
Yeah.
In the UK.
Yes.
Please tell us a bit about the company, Film Finances.
Well, it's, as I say, it started out in the UK, bonding films. Interesting, here's a very interesting story.
Yeah.
I had an email from a professor at the Cape Town University, and he was doing research on a film called The Naked Prey. Many, many years, 1964.
Sure.
And he knew that we had bonded that film. It was shot out here, South Africa, and he wanted to know if I had any information I could give him on that film. So I got hold of my colleagues in the UK, and we've got archives that go back all those years. And they put together some archive material for me, and they sent it to me. And I went through this, and of course you must remember, no cell phones, no emails, everything was typed, not even an electric typewriter, 1964. And the the letters were so informative of the producer writing to the bond company and to the investors about what was going on with the film and the troubles that they were having, and this one was sick and that one was sick and the director didn't pitch, or all sorts of things. But it was fascinating just to look at the material that there's nothing digital about it. And I sent that down to the prof at Cape Town University, and he was overwhelmed and over the moon with the information he got. And he got what he needed. It was a lot of insight into the making of that film. And the troubles that they went through.
So now then the company.
Then the head office moved to LA. LA do about, I think probably pre-COVID, they were doing about 200 movies a year, maybe 250.
That's a lot.
Depends. Yep.
It's
a lot of,
Okay.
But there's Canada's always busy, Australia's always busy.
So this is a huge network.
It is, and I draw from that network, which is fascinating. Now, there's a recent film I'm doing now, and they're traveling to the States. They're going to New York. Now we've got an office in New York, and I needed some rates. So all I do is just check in with my colleague, and I say, what are the rates for these people? And he sends them to me, and so
It's fascinating, Jane.
It's very useful.
It's fascinating.
Very useful.
It's fascinating. I'm actually surprised because, you know, obviously we'd met and we didn't get, and I'm happy that our meeting was not on set and it was not when we were working, you know. We met at the Durban Film Art, and I had the pleasure of having dinner with you and a few
right. Yeah.
colleagues. And, you know, I walked out of there telling a friend of mine who'd invited me. Obviously, he's way more experienced than I am. And I was like, you know, just being in that room, being on that table, experiencing these conversations for me was an eye-opener, you know. And I think that's the reason why we wanted to start this podcast in the first place.
Yeah. I was very interested. Yeah.
To kind of expose these conversations, to say, guys, you know, there are people who are doing, you know, incredible work in this industry. And we keep on, you know, we're not giving them their flowers, we're not celebrating, or we're not learning from these people. And if we lose this pool of knowledge, then we are headed for big trouble as an industry, which has such great potential. But now, for a young aspiring filmmaker who's just like recently gotten into, you know, the space, does not have much experience but is passionate and has some films that they want to do, number one, where can they get their funding? You know, I mean, they've got no experience. This is just like passion, and they've just graduated maybe, and, you know, they really want, and this sounds more like me, and it in essence is I thought I'd change the world as soon as I graduated. But you know, how does one get going? How would you advise a young
Interesting,
filmmaker?
because of the name of the company, Film Finances, I often get young individuals coming saying, we need money for our film. So I said, well, sorry, but this is, you know, what we actually do. And so my advice is hook up with somebody that knows what they're doing. Hook up with a producer that's got a track record, that will take you under their wing and, you know, run with them. Get some track record behind you. You might have to make a short film at some point, but hook up with somebody that knows. I know that people, the Writers Guild will always help with script coverage. So this young individual emailed me thinking Film Finance is a finance, you know, we would be able to finance her film. She had a script. I said, I'm sorry to disappoint her, but we were a completion guarantee. But I would put her in touch with Richard Green, who was down in Durban, and she was going down to Durban. She was from AFTA in Cape Town, and she had the script. And Richard Green then met with her and redirected her to somebody who could help her get to the next level up. So it's sometimes not what you know, it's who you know. And it's a step at a time. And hopefully she'll eventually manage to get some development money and maybe do a pilot or work with somebody who's more knowledgeable and go under their wing and get something off the ground that way. But there's a lot of young creative individuals out there that just need some idea on who to go to, where to go, who's out there who can help me. And there's a lot of veterans out there that are only too willing to help, you know, and steer them in the right direction.
And I guess looking back at your career and how you got to where you are now, you were quite fearless in that regard, where you'd walk up to maybe an embassy and say, hey, this is what I'm needing, or you'd go to people who maybe other young people would not be as brave to walk up to and say, I need help.
Well, I'm not very good at asking for help, I must admit. But I think a lot has to do with being in the right place at the right time. I mean, even my transition from Endemol to Film Finances just happened
At the right time.
to be at the right time. Just happened.
And it wasn't...
The universe dictates. Yeah.
It wasn't your own
No,
thinking?
I'd always wanted to work for a bonding company, a completion guarantee company. But at that particular time, I didn't know there was an opening. And I decided to leave Endemol, and then a producer friend of mine said, well, why don't you come and be a production accountant on this job? And I thought, I'm not sure I want to go back to that. But if I have to, I would. And then I started doing budgets for people and cash flows for people. And then this opening came while I was serving my notice. And I mean, it just couldn't have happened at a better time.
Funny.
And that was just over 10 years ago.
Right. And here you are.
And here I am.
MD.
Yes.
Yeah. So now, as someone who's experienced in this, in managing completion bonds, how crucial are these instruments in mitigating risks in film production? Can you share insights into that significance and impact?
Yeah, it's absolutely crucial. There's a framework that we work within. Obviously, your budget can be $2 million, or 2 million rand, R1 million even, or it can be $80 million. Who knows? We can bond those kind of films, but it's not my money, and I don't want to put somebody into a position where they have to pay that money out. Yeah. So I have to make sure I cross the T's and dot the I's. And coming from a very detailed background, when I first got into this business, I was far too detailed. And one producer said to me, "Are you playing accountant now?" Well, yes, I probably was. I was very detailed. And I got feedback from my bosses in LA and saying, "Don't be so detailed." And he was an accountant as well. So eventually you find your groove and you know what to look for and where to look for it. So we have to do a full due diligence. It's not only the budgeting and script. So I break down a script to all its components, and then I read the schedule and I see how long they want to shoot for, and they want to shoot that script. Then I look at the budget and I literally go line by line by line by line. I ask a lot of questions. And it can annoy some people sometimes, because they've already done the budget 5 or 6 times before you get it. And but you have to get into the skin, under the skin of this film, so that you know exactly what's going on. You have to know what's in the producer's head. You have to know if there's certain shots that need to be done in a certain way. You have to understand how they're going to shoot it to make the budget sense. So you do all that due diligence, and then during the show you've got to monitor it. But before that happens even, you've got a whole lot of legal work to do. You've got to make sure that the finance agreements are solid and secure. You've got to see the producer's agreement, director's agreement, the key cast agreements. I mean, all of these are big line items in the budget, and you need to verify that what they say is in the budget is what they're going to do, in an agreement. So there's, and sometimes normally the bigger budgets, there's inter-party agreements, there's loan agreements, there's bank agreements, there's all sorts of, and the paperwork can be horrendous the bigger the film. There might be a bunch of people we deliver, because our obligation is to deliver the film at the end of the day, and that could be just to the producer, or it could be to networks, the streamers. It could be more than one distributor. It could be distributors in different territories. So, and they've all got their own requirements, and we have to meet those requirements, and all those requirements we need to know are budgeted for. So it's quite a process to go through, and just getting a piece of paper doesn't mean that we're there. We have to verify and read contracts. We've got in-house lawyers, and they work with me all the time to make sure everything is where it should be, because everything's fine until it goes wrong.
That's true.
You see, and it can be annoying for some people who hate paperwork, creatives hate paperwork generally.
Yes. Trust.
But as I say, it's all fine until something goes wrong. And it's also not their money, it's our money that we're at risk, that we would have to pay out if we don't deliver this film on time. And we don't want to do that. And then during the production, we monitor it daily. We make sure the director's making his days, that everybody's doing what they need to do so that they finish on time, on schedule. And then during post-production, we monitor the post-production schedule. Basically, we work with the post-supervisor on that right through to delivery. Once delivery is made, then that's our obligation over.
Okay.
Yeah.
So how do you go about actually bonding these films or
Well,
choosing?
the due diligence.
Okay.
Once we've done the due diligence, then we can say, yes, this is good. We'll
Fantastic.
bond. We obviously do a few numbers up front and say, yes, our intent is to bond this film, but then we wait for all the rest of the paperwork to come in.
Okay.
Yeah.
Interesting.
Yeah.
But now looking ahead, what major shifts or changes would you like to see in this business of ours, especially concerning financing, production?
Well, I'd certainly like the banks to get involved and trust the industry.
Yeah.
But they're not going to do that until we know or we can prove in a way that they will have a return on their investment,
True.
ideally. But for the banks to be a bit more open.
Yeah.
I know over the years we've met with the banks, but I don't see it an open door just yet.
All in good time.
All in good time.
So now, Jane, now we're moving to the more exciting part of our show, which is the game.
Oh, gosh.
This game will be filling in the blanks. Okay, I'll give you a sentence, and then you add whatever you feel, you want to add. Okay. I love the film and television industry because.
Of the people.
Okay, and why the people? I mean, what is it about that?
I mean, every film is different, and different dynamics with a group of people. It's different all the time.
Yeah.
Love change.
Yeah, it's true.
Love change.
And it's kind of sad when you come to an end of a production. It's
Oh, I
like,
must tell you, the first film
worst.
I
Yeah.
ever did, I cried. I even went to see them off at the airport.
Shame.
I mean, who does that?
Oh.
Nobody does that.
No one does that.
I was so attached to everybody. Yeah.
We had a rap party for production we were busy with last month, and it was so hard for all of us because
It's a family.
it's a family.
And especially away movies.
Exactly, yeah.
When you go away,
Yeah,
that's it.
That's it.
And those early movies that I did, those bonds they still exist
oh man,
today.
yeah,
Yeah.
that's what it's about. Eh? I will not watch a movie unless.
Well, I can tell you what I won't watch.
Okay.
Any horror.
Okay.
Don't do horror.
Yeah.
Don't do scary stuff.
That's me. That's me. Yeah, no. Okay, I'll only work on a project if.
I'll work on any project. I don't. If it's to help somebody or I need to for money or whatever, I will work on it.
Wonderful.
Unless it's porn.
Yeah, no, we're not going to touch
Not
that.
going to do that.
No to porn. The future of the South African film and television industry is.
It's vibrant. It's changed. It's certainly changed. I'd say over the last decade or 15 years. It's different, and it's vast. And I think there's more people in it now that have come into the business. It should be vibrant. It should be, what it brings to the economy of this country is incredible. And I think that needs to be appreciated more by the powers that be.
Yeah. So, according to you, what is the ingredients to a successful project?
Putting the right people in the key positions that can execute, and having the right dynamics between the people. You just need one bad egg,
And then
you can have an issue on set. But if you manage to crew up with the right people, and you have the right dynamic between those people, you're halfway there, I think. It makes a huge difference.
And I guess that's, you have to be able to tap into sort of a sixth sense, your intuition.
Absolutely.
When choosing these people.
Absolutely, yeah.
It's not enough just seeing on paper that Marcus has done this, that, and the third.
No.
But he's a horrible human.
I mean, I know people who are great at their job, but they are
horrible. Yeah, it's true.
Hard work. Not horrible, but just hard work.
Okay.
You've got to be a team player.
Yeah, I know. Yeah. What do you think we have that is better than what Hollywood has?
We have great crew. I'm not saying they don't, but we are more amenable, I think.
Okay, so I think that you have not made it as a filmmaker until...
I'm not a filmmaker, so I don't know.
Love it.
Pass.
Before you begin a new project, make sure you...
have money in the bank.
Producers have to know, eh? There's one particular producer in Cape Town who still owes me.
Oh.
But that's a story for another day. Okay, what was your all-time favorite project to work on?
I have two. One was Crystal Eye, which was in Cape Town, long time ago. And the other one was Ghost in the Darkness.
Okay.
In Bud Plus. Those are my two favorite.
Well, Jane, we've reached the tail end of our show. We'd really like to thank you for this informative, educational, and fun episode. We've learned a lot about the world of film financing, bonding, and accounting, and what goes on in the day-to-day operations. So we want to just say thank you and to show our gratitude, and may you continue to break more barriers, break more ground, and teach more young people on how to do this very, very, very challenging task of handling the finances of this industry.
Thank you for having me.
Thank you.
Great.
Now, we'd like to thank Fortune Well, the Dynamic Workspaces, as well as the Magic Lightbox Company for sponsoring this episode.